Hey Zach, welcome to the SABM podcast.
Hey Scott, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So I don't know where you'd like to start. We can start with I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. So we've got number four VA lender in a previous life. You were a 16-year-old kid who started a business, which is pretty cool. And you're the founder of Relos, which is what you do today. And it's been great to meet you through the investor group and to watch the pitches over the last few months. And excited to have you here on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks a lot. No, I'm excited to be here and thanks for including me and inviting me on.
Yeah, I guess my first question, and then we can kind of maybe we'll get into Relos and what you do today. But like, how do you become the number four like VA lender in like just a couple of years? Like that's an amazing accomplishment. Like, man, like how does that even happen?
Yeah, so I think like anything else, it was a combination of hard work and good timing. I'll like rewind back. I don't know how, but one of the reasons why I wanted to join the military was because of the VA home loan benefit. I don't know how in high school I'd like researched that or knew about that, but I did. I was very fortunate to get stationed in Oahu, use my VA home loan benefit for the first time when I was 23. Um, like 2 years later, I used a HELOC I refinanced that place. I guess no, I refinanced it a cash out because property values in Hawaii go up a lot. Did a cash out, bought my second property on my VA home loan benefit, and I renovated that. And between the second property I bought was a 2 unit. I could Airbnb half, and I lived in the other half, which was really awesome. And as a leader in the army, I saw a lot of my sh soldiers really struggling with their finances, and I'd come from a similar background as a lot of my soldiers, and you know, I just decided to get out and focus on lending, specifically on the VA home loan benefit. But I think that's sort of the background story. But so my mission was I was very mission driven, helping vets, leverage their VA home loan benefit for their finances. But I didn't really worry about doing more loans than the next person. What I was most concerned with was educating veterans on their VA home loan benefit and on credit repair. And I think a byproduct of that approach was the volume. So it's not like I was, woke up every morning thinking I was going to do a whole ton of loans. I woke up every morning like really wanting to spread the word about the VA home loan benefit, help people figure it out and help people use it. So yeah, I think that's sort of the motivation there.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty cool approach. I think a lot of people, probably me included, would, you look at the numbers or like you want to be number one or whatever. But it's like, hey, like maybe a great mindset would be like, how can I actually be useful to somebody? And, you build those relationships and then, yeah, of course they're gonna, you're gonna build that relationship. And I'm sure, of course, they're gonna, if they want to, they're buying a house or they want to use their VA loan, they're gonna think of you for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then obviously timing, like COVID hit. I didn't have 20 years of refinances to do like a lot of my peers. And I was doing in-person seminars and credit repair workshops, and I just digitized those because we couldn't gather in person. And the webinars that I created are what really, helped my career take off. So I was able to take like a Hawaii sort of based program of those educational things and really nationalize those. I think COVID really forced me to scale without me knowing, but that taught me a lot as well.
Well, yeah. Well, congratulations. And then how does that, and then what was, tell us about the transition into what you do today.
Yeah. In 2021, I knew in 2022 I was going to stop lending. It was just, I was obviously making really good money and helping a lot of folks, but just the whole transaction process was really infuriating to the point where, I literally quit. And then I also saw sort of, the technology available in real estate. I think, real estate professionals get paid a lot. Like people, it's been a point of contention. Like, why do they make 2.5 or 3% on these transactions? And I think from a real estate company's perspective is like, hey, we pay our agents we pay our agents enough to deal with bad tech. So we're not going to invest in technology. And then if you look at Compass and Real Broker, and these are tech-enabled brokerages, they've really gained a ton of market share by saying like, hey, no, we do believe that technology can be used as like a recruiting tool or to scale a brokerage or its operations, which obviously it can. So what I saw is a gap in the market where you have like these mom and pop brokerages, or even in some cases like legacy national brokerages, like maybe Coldwell Banker or Keller Williams, that they say they're trying to work on their technology, but maybe don't have the best solutions. So I think that Compass and Real Broker have shown that real estate agents really do care about the technology that they use. And I think Relos is a great response to that for agents or brokerages that aren't sort of more tech forward.
Yeah, and you're solving a pain point that you had when you were a loan officer, which drove you out of the business. And that's pretty cool. Like, hey, I had this problem, this challenge, and it was so bad that I left the business entirely, even though I was pretty good at it. And here's a solution. So you can really um, empathize with the customer because like you were them, you know, and
Yeah.
so I'm curious to hear how the business development calls go and stuff because like on the investor pitches that you give that you've given over the last couple of months, like you've gotten a lot of traction. And so are you growing this business in the same way that you grew uh, your loan officer business with through education, through like in that way, or like how are you connecting with the end users?
Yeah, so I would say from a geographic perspective, like we started in Hawaii, and that's very much like I got my processes down in Hawaii as a lender. It's, might seem like an odd place, but it's, highest median home value. So I think a lot of problems in real estate are really agitated in high dollar markets. They're very competitive and things like that. As far as like our go-to-market or sales, it is. I would say it is actually much different than lending. Like I said, in lending, it was very clear, like, hey, there's a whole target audience of, in my case, veterans that didn't understand how to use their VA home loan benefit. Um, and just showing them how to use it helps. With Relos, it's actually like much different. And I think this is something that we've really learned over the past 2 months. The sales calls and everything are very easy. I think the success of Relos actually hinges more on customer success than it does sales. Like it's relatively easy for us to get in the door. However, when you're talking about a large brokerage switching a system, or even trying to get real estate agents to care about getting through escrow with grace and more and faster, um, it sounds like an easy sort of pitch or sell, and again, it is. But what we saw in the beginning is that people would start using it and sort of fall off. So now we're very prescriptive in our pilot programming, and essentially, as long as we're strict with the pilot programming, then the transition over to Relos is much more smooth.
So walk us through like how it works. So like yeah, tell us what you built.
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty easy, which is also sort of has me scratching my head sometimes and why we have to be so strict on these pilots. But essentially, a real estate purchase contract, I'm gonna use Hawaii as an example just because it's easy, but it's generally similar in many of the states. The purchase contract itself is 14 pages. The counter offer is two. So you're any contract, you're at least gonna have 16 pages. And then you probably have like, 10 to really like 18 additional pages of required addenda. So it could be like a lead-based paint addenda if the house was built before the 76, or STR addenda, all the short-term rental addenda, all these other things. So what you do is the user will upload their purchase contract packet. Reload splits that for them on a web-based application. Usually what they were doing before Reload, they would download that, they'd split it on Adobe and save every attachment piece by piece. So just having it split on a web-based platform and being able to label it and sort of save those documents saves a lot of time. After they split those documents, they press submit, and then Relos actually reads the purchase contract and the counter offer for them. they'll confirm what the reader has read. So we read 66 fields. We'll miss anywhere from 1 to 3 fields in any out of those 66. So it's pretty good accuracy, and we actually prompt them with the fields that we've missed, or if it'll identify if something's actually missing from the contract. Once they've like essentially confirmed what the reader has read, again, they just press continue, and then Relos has generated a timeline and a task list by stakeholder. From
Mhm.
there, all they really have to do is enter in the email address of the relevant stakeholder, and then the software goes out and it handles document collection, scheduling, and in some cases, some people just have to mark something complete or acknowledge a document. So that's the work that Relos does. And um, yeah, it's very funny because what I always tell them is, hey, we want to get you out of your inbox and selling, but they've for a lot of ops teams and brokerages, they might have been doing ops and brokerages for 20, 30 years. They're so used to being in control of email. So I think that's the real psychological shift that we're starting to get through. But yeah, that's essentially how it works.
And how much time does this save?
So
What's your estimate?
yeah, so we've asked our users this, like specifically our power users who we know sort of use the software properly, like through their whole transaction. They estimate, and again, this is like self-reported, that a typical transaction from, offer accepted to closing for a transaction coordinator or for a solo agent could take up to 20 hours.
Hmm.
And they're telling us Reload saves them about 12 of those hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real money. So I'd much rather be spending those 12 hours elsewhere than doing
Yeah.
paperwork.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And what would you say are some of your most important goals right now? So we're obviously finishing out 2025 here. So this podcast should be live here pretty soon. But we're starting a new year soon. And so, like, as you look out over the horizon into Q1 and next year, what are some of your most important goals? And then what's like your long shot goal? Like, if you look out, 3 to 5 years from now, where would you like Relos to be?
Yeah, so for short-term goal, I think we really have two short-term goals. One feeds the other. Like the more long-term short-term goal is really raising like our pre-seed round. But I think in order for us to really do that, we need to switch our existing user base and get new users to begin paying. So we were hoping for a Jan 1 payment date. It's the new year. The reality is with building software, it always takes longer than it's going to take, like many other things in life. So we're going to actually switch everybody over to paying in February, and then we hope to have our fundraising round closed um, April timeframe. So
All right.
that would be the short-term goal. I mean, the absolute long-term goal, and I say this, I'm not afraid to say it. I think if you look at like the major prop tech unicorn of Web 2, it's Zillow, which is essentially a monetizable database. I genuinely believe that the next prop tech unicorn is a company that actually does the work, right? I mean, AI can actually do work for humans. And, that's why I picked this problem because this is the one workflow that no website or software provider has like sufficiently tackled in any way, shape, or form. And I think if you own the work in real estate, I think you're going to own real estate. So that's my long-term goal is to build a unicorn, and you know I would love to take it public or at least get it to a couple $100 million valuation.
All right. Well, very exciting. And what are the biggest roadblocks or challenges standing in your way? So, for the folks that are listening to the podcast today, how can we help? What connections are most valuable for you?
Yeah, so we have like an absolutely outstanding advisory board that really is able to help us with sales at the national level. And I think, myself included, like from lending, I really have a great national footprint on the sales front. The most important thing is just really the user experience, and that boils down to headcount and hiring more engineers. So, for us, like absolutely We would love any connections, but it does have to be a geographic rollout, and our current user base is taking us to the next states we're going to be in. So for us, short term, it really just is fundraising to hire more engineers. I mean, our software has a really big surface area. It's hard to maintain. So yeah, really the biggest help for us is just, getting in touch with investors that are interested in prop tech, are interested in AI, are interested in workflow automation. That way we can, we need to at least double our engineering team really over the next 6 months to really scale out of our pilot market, which is Oahu.
Okay. Well, awesome. And what's the best way for folks to learn more about what you do and reach out and get in touch?
Yeah, two ways. LinkedIn, I do respond to most of my LinkedIn messages, provided they're like personalized and we have like a mutual connection or something like that. Or just Zach at relos.com.
All right. And yeah, well, so we'll certainly post your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, and I think you've got a website, right? So we'll post a link there as well to your website. And yeah, man. And if I think you've got one more investor group pitch in January, so if anybody wants to check that out, make sure to you'll see Zach in action. He's been doing a great job. So Zach, thanks for being on the podcast today, and it's been great getting to know you over the last couple of months. And here's to an awesome 2026.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Scott.